Hello, greetings. Welcome to the broadcast. I'm your host today, Maggie Cavanaugh, and we are here today on Keys to Your Best Life with the amazing Tawanda Murray. And I'm telling you, this woman is the full package. I met her years ago at a faith-based recovery meeting, and I was so impressed what God has done in her life and how she shares that with others. And she is here today to just give you some encouragement and maybe share a little bit of her story. We'll go into that. But the most you need to know is that the Lord has been center in her life, and everything that she has gone through, he has taken all those broken pieces and used for his good and for his glory. So Tawanda, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you for having me, Maggie.
I'm so thankful that you have the time to be here today, because I do believe people need to hear some encouragement. And I know, looking at your bio, and I do encourage you viewers, if you're watching this, I'm just going to read a little bit of it if you're watching this on Creative Motion Network, because you won't have the bio there, but on social media you will. But she's a presenter for the National Alliance of Mental Health, which is NAMI, and is also a certified peer recovery specialist for the state of Tennessee. She holds, She holds a certificate for recovery practices, as well as CPSS training and leading and coaching for supervisors. She is a Nashville Community Advisor Board served for Blue Care Behavioral Health Advisory Regional Board in Nashville, Knoxville, Memphis, Chattanooga. Girl, you get all over the state. And it goes on and on and on, but she has got a long-term recovery story, and she is the founder of I Am Recovery. So Tawanda, tell us about I Am Recovery, how that started and all about it.
Well, I Am Recovery was founded because I'm a person in long-term recovery myself. Some of that focuses from changes, chances, and outcomes of life. So I found myself in active addiction. And I stayed in it so long, I think I got a medical degree in it, in active addiction. But I knew that my life was not destined to be that way, and I wanted to see change. So I started with myself. I started reaching out to people for treatment centers. I went to treatment, and then I just decided to get involved and found an easier, softer way for this to happen. What I found out, though, was the recovery family is just like a birth family. They stand there for you. I'm not going to say I got it right off the start, but I kept coming back until the doors finally opened. In my trajectories, I knew that I was not the only person that focused or was sustainable in that dis-ease. You say disease, but it is a dis-ease. It dis-eases you from yourself. So I put together a recovery program, and that's what we utilize today. And the name of the program is called I Am Recovery.
I love that. And so you did that, how many years ago? About 4 years ago? 5? How long ago was that?
I put the program together in 2015. It passed scrutiny in the drug court. And so I became a nonprofit for the agency in 2018.
Wow, what a process. So I know people in drug court certainly can benefit from that. Do you find that the courts are more open now than they were several years ago, maybe when you were in active recovery?
Yes, they really are. I was just on a Zoom last week with one of the judges from Austin, Texas. It's amazing to see how many people are open to this now. We've always been embedded with the stigma of addiction, but now we have people that are willing to help us because, we're in an epidemic state in this nation. So we have to find solutions that are sustainable for people to stay active in their recovery.
I so believe that. And that is part of the reason. And that's actually how I met you, is because I am so passionate about recovery because of my own story many years ago when I was caught in addiction and bound up with all of that. And it took so much. But I'll tell you, a lot of my freedom did not come until I totally surrendered to the Lord. And so with that being said, I know for those of you watching and you're outside of the region, Tennessee is so concerned about the opiate epidemic, the addictive disorder problem that we have here and in many other states, that they started the faith-based initiative. So I know that has been a huge blessing. What's your thoughts on bringing faith into the recovery movement?
If it had not been for the Lord who was on my side, where would I be? I definitely had to grab a hold. I tried to do it in my own strength the many years that I tried to quit. And I knew, the program talks about a higher power, God of our understanding. And so that led me to find out who the Lord himself was, and even being who I am, I had to take that and rewind, because when the Lord first called me to walk for him, I started physically walking around my park. And I'm serious. I was walking for like 2 weeks, and I explained that to someone, and they started laughing. And she said, no, he means with all areas of your life. So I get that today because, without without something outside of yourself, it's hard to get to where you need to be. And so the Lord is who I know sustains us all from whatever we have. I surrendered to him, and that's what kept me on the path.
Wow. I love that. I love that. And now here you are working with other people as well. And your program is helping to change lives. So can you share a little bit about your testimony and how you found yourself in recovery?
I'm a very compassionate person. I love people, and was a little bit. I'm analytical, so I was analyzing how I thought my family, my mother and my family reaction was with me, and so I was assuming one thing, like I say, mind reading, and I found out later on it wasn't like that. But I'm the type of person to go just to any list to help anybody that I can, and I allowed myself to get pushed into a corner where I felt like, well, does anybody ever really care about me? I got the poor me's. And so I just I said, well, look, I've had enough of this side. I'm just going to try it to where I don't have to be anybody. I don't have to give anything. I'll just settle out. That settling out led me to addiction. And when I got in there, of course, I realized that was not the lifestyle that I wanted to live either. And so it became an uphill battle, running in and running out, running in and running out with no stability. But again, I wasn't picking up the necessary tools to become sustainable, being around the right people, places, and things, as we say. And even in the Lord says, walk not with the counsel of the ungodly. So we must find a measure where we can be lifted up, And the thing about it is the depression, the guilt, and the shame kept me there longer than I wanted to stay. And, I ended up with a mental health diagnosis, which today I'm blessed to say I don't take any medication, but that is because I've had to find out my value, who I was and what had me there. And it was overanalyzing everything. It wasn't working on me. It was looking outside of who I was for the things that I needed.
Wow. Wow. So would you say that on the before you started into addiction that you were maybe a little codependent because you cared about other people and stuff or no?
I would say, I'm not going to say codependent. I'm going to say I ran so fast that I didn't notice that I was cared for. I was just so, just wanted to help everybody. This help, but it's part of my nature. And so what I had to do was take that and put it into a measure that was beneficial to others, not to harm to myself. So we kind of work it together today.
That is absolutely amazing. And, I also many years ago was diagnosed with ADHD, and I don't take any medication either. And I'm not saying that, hear us when we say this, we're not saying go quit your medication, but we're saying that sometimes we learn things over the years to help us get through things. And so for me, I had to learn to kind of, and that was a lot of the reason I used is because I was trying to feel different. And back then when I was growing up, they didn't know about ADHD and they didn't know, I was just a busy kid. And so I used, marijuana to slow me down and then pain, medication to slow me down and, popping pills to calm me down because I was always like, ah! And then later on in my addiction, I ended up using, cocaine because of the fact that it stimulated me like Ritalin would have, like the medication would have. It mimicked that. And I got caught in that cycle. So I think that you're absolutely 100% right when you talk about the guilt, the shame, and the condemnation and staying there. I know I was stuck for many years. I bet you see this a lot with the people that you work with.
Yeah, I do. It's just a point of, with me, most anything that happens in life is a factor of something that happened before. And when you masturbate it, when you continue to cover up all those things, I would do something and hide it and whatever. You cannot live like that. The word of God tells us don't be in the middle. And it was like being in the middle in the daytime. I could, be out in the sunlight. At night, I was doing the wrong parts of life. And it just does not add up. You cannot be stagnant in the middle. But again, we have the trauma and the underlying issues. If people can peel back that onion one layer at a time, I promise you that it's a start to becoming a better you.
I believe that 100%. I actually take an onion and cut it in half when I'm teaching on the layers of all the trauma and the drama and the things that happen to us. And then we just try to cover up. And we, everybody tells us, well, just pull up your bootstraps and be strong and move on. But if you do not put things in their proper place, those things will come back. It reminds me of the story of, Lot, even though Lot, was in a bad situation in the Bible, but he got near to some stuff. And, what you get near to, you get into. And if you are in the wrong place with the wrong people doing the wrong things, you're going to get wrong results. Do you find that to be true?
I definitely do. Maggie, I write a lot. And so when you look around, the reason I named the program I Am Recovery is because we recover from something every day. Most people, when they hear the name of my program, they say drugs, alcohol. No, it's from that question you just asked. It's from not, you got to communicate things. You got to understand where people are and you got to meet them there. You can't make anybody be anybody else, but you can help them be of value to themselves.
Oh, wow. And you know what? You said something a while ago really important that I want to elaborate on. You were talking about when you found out who you were and your identity. And so it is incredibly important for people to know their value. And I think a lot of times, especially when the door is open to substance abuse or even, like you said, anger or porn or whatever, shopping addiction, food addiction. I mean, the list goes on and on. And a lot of people will say, well, at least I don't do drugs, or at least I'm not doing this. But yet they justify their stuff. And so we are all recovering from something. I like to call it life recovery.
Yeah. From one day to the next.
That's exactly right. And different seasons. I know for me, I found myself, because early in life, I had the drug abuse, and then it went to codependency, and then it went to, overachieving. I was addicted to that. I couldn't get enough education. Couldn't climb that ladder fast enough. And all of these things, and it all starts right here as taking our thoughts captive, because if we don't learn to do that, we are just, we will get pulled sway to all kinds of directions.
I heard a guy one time. I was in a meeting and he said one side of his mind sells BS and the other side buys it. I definitely get that, because if you think negative, then life's going to be negative. If you think positive, it's going to be positive. There's every day is not going to be a good day, but there's good in every day. It's twofold. There is good in every day. You just have to find it. Whatever mishap you have in that day, look past it. You just got, if you can't work it out, then it's not for you to work out. You just have to go on, but you cannot hold on to it. You got to find somewhere to empty your trash. You must do that.
Oh, yeah. Empty the trash. Amen. Yeah. Do that brain dump. Pull it all out. And I think a lot of times the people don't realize they get in that victim mentality, especially those of us that have a whole lot of ACEs. And for those of you who don't know what ACEs are, they're adverse childhood experiences that affect us and they mold us. And it's how we perceive the world around us. And it's so easy when you've got a lot of those to be a victim. And so how can people, Tawanda, break out of the victim cycle?
Work on your inner self. I love writing. I get a goal list. I put the thing, or should I say, let's change that up. I'll say, if I have a circumstance that's a negative circumstance, I go back and I review it. And I say, what could have happened if I would have looked at, if I'd have viewed the situation different? What pros and cons can I use for the next time the situation happens? They say that life is 90% of what happens to you and 10% of how you handle it. And that I find to be true. It's how you handle situations. I mean, I'm one of those people that could get scrambled all out of sorts, rushing and raving, but I have to come back and say, like being late. If I'm going to be late, I know what time to leave. And then you jump out in traffic and you're mad because the traffic is not going fast enough for you. Or, and you don't know what that person's experienced, whether they got an emergency they got to go to. But it's not what happens to you. Again, it's how you handle it. And so reviewing the situations works wonders.
Wow, that's so true. Absolutely. And I love what you said about the inner work, because, the Bible talks about the inner man. It talks about spirit, soul, and body, and our soul is found in our mind and our will and our emotions. That's where we get stuck. We get stuck with soul wounds of trauma from past and our wrong thought life and the things that we ingest and regurgitate and justify. And I love what you said, because I have found myself doing that, getting agitated because I'm running late because I made the choice to go have another cup of coffee instead of getting in the car when I was supposed to, those type of things. And so when we shift things and look at the from the lens of gratitude, I think is a major thing that transformed my life. Being grateful. I remember one day not too long ago, and I ended up coming home and posted on Facebook because I was sitting in my car and I was so frustrated because I could see nothing but traffic all the way on 24 as far as I could see. And in my rearview mirror on the other side, it was backed up as well. And it was so far from the stop. And I thought to myself, there's traffic. And I was getting so agitated. And then I realized, wait a minute, there are people that don't have a car that would love to be sitting in a car. And then I thought, there are people that are sitting in cars that don't have air conditioning. there, and and I had to go to the bathroom really bad, which makes you a little more irritable. And I was thinking, you know what? There are people that can't go to the bathroom and they have to wear, a bag. And so I started going through the list of all of the things, and I thought, and I thought, I'm on my way to my house, and there are a lot of people who have no place to live. And I started looking at it, and it started changing my attitude, because I started being grateful for the fact that yes, I had a car, it had gas in it, it had, I had some place to go. So I think that is a huge component in it. So so now you work with the courts, is that right? Does the court appoint you to help individuals, or are they required to go through your program?
Well, how it started out working was I was going to the prison doing an AA meeting, and I realized that most of the ladies in there didn't just have an AA problem. So again, there are different types of problems. There's NACA, DA, Al-Anon. Some of them wasn't in that at all, but they did come to the meeting. So I just decided that when they asked me could I come back because I got overpopulated, if I would take on some more, would I come on another day? And I said, only if I could use the I Am Recovery curriculum, because that way we're able to address all issues. We can talk freely, it's the group of women. And so we started using that. So what happens is when we go in, I like to bring everybody into the meeting. When we open up, I ask everybody how they're feeling. They may or not want to answer, but it always worked, because I found out if you invite everybody in, whether they correspond or not, they feel a part of it. And that's what we're here on this earth to do, is to feel a part of who we are and where we are. So I started going out there. And so when the ladies had court dates, of course, they would ask me to come to court date. Of course, I'd go to the court dates. And then I've been before some of the judges have released them to work on the I Am Recovery program. I got one now that I think she's coming up on 3 years clean. She didn't miss a beat, but it's just investing in who you are. Of course, everybody's not going to make it. I don't care what you do, but everybody has the opportunity. And if you stick with it, if you stay on that path, it's sustainable. And one thing about I Am Recovery, I'm not going anywhere. You when you come in, you're branded. You're welcome to stay. I don't care how many times you go out. I'm always there for you, because it was people that were there for me.
I love that. So whenever you're talking about the program itself, it is a program they are working on their own. They don't come and stay with you or anything like that. It's not a residential, right?
No, it's not a residential. It's I am the recovery educator. Education, being informative, analytical. I saved all my paperwork, I tell you, from 20 years back when I went to treatment. And so I just took all those paperwork together, put them together. And so I have an I Am Recovery curriculum, and that's what we work out of. It's a 7-week program. But again, we work on the 12 steps. We work on anger management. We work on family issues. We work on health goals. Just anything that you got an issue on, it's in I Am Recovery. Because we do recovery.
I just love that. I love that, because this is what we need, because as well as I do, the people that struggle with substance abuse, also, they need to overcome so many other things that, and maybe their substance abuse came from trying to cover up their other addiction. They were trying to cope, trying to self-medicate. And so maybe they were struggling with anxiety, and they were so anxious, they would do, something to calm them down. And then it got into a vicious cycle. And I love that it addresses the whole person.
It does. We use, I'd like to use a feeling wheel where we come in and ask everybody how they feeling. I also do another thing with them where I ask them to write down we have a certain topic. And so I put them all, I'd ask them to write down, we tear the paper, put them all in, and I let them draw them out. And somebody always pulls one out, and they're able to answer that question. And you have some association of how one may be feeling in the day. So that works well too.
I love that. And I love what you said about having them feel a part, because it is super important. It's kind of like doing highs and lows in a group. Everybody participates. Somebody's got something to add. I've got a young girl one of the girls that I mentor, that she leads a group of girls at the church, and she does the high, lows, and then she does the buffaloes, which is just something fun. And so it kind of gets them in the right stage of mind, because who wants to end on a low? I mean, it's we want you to talk about how you're feeling, but who wants to end on a low? And it makes them kind of it lightens the atmosphere sometimes, to where that they feel a part, because everybody has been through something or got a funny story or has some sort of way. So by you doing that feelings wheel, it's like an icebreaker that gets them interactive, to where they put down their victim mentality and nobody understands me and I'm all alone, to where I'm a part, because everybody's going through this.
Yeah. And another thing I do too is I try to encourage them to encourage one another. Like, without, I used to go on Friday nights. I'd ask them during the week to have have their own little meeting and give me feedback on that week, to lift me up that week, tell me what they were doing. Amazing ideas, all on my dreaming. And then I have a book that I am been fixing to release called She Rose. It's the life of incarcerated women breaking free of our chains of confinement. And so I used a couple of the ladies' stories. We have affirmations, and I also asked, it was 54 in that book, it's 54 ladies' book titles. You just give them something to do. Y'all can write a book. What would your title be? And there was one that has always stuck with me, and it was called Trying to Live Sucker Free in a World of Lollipops.
I love that.
That's deep, but so all of them had, some of us want being a better me, or the mom that I wasn't, that I think that I can be, just inviting them in to feel a part of it. And I think that's Nashville to me has been a lighthouse because they have an openness for recovery. There's a lot that can always be done. I don't care where you are. But the main thing I think, Maggie, if we combine together, I don't care how many halfway houses we have, how many jails we have, how many resources we have. If we do not work together, we can't do it. We have got to do this thing together. And what happens in this, and I'm going on a negative boat right here. If you see somebody that you can help, lend a helping hand. Just lend a helping hand. It's all it takes. It's a smile. It's an open door. You don't even have the greatest gift you can give somebody anyway is prayer. If you can just pray for somebody, you might not be able to answer. A listening ear. Listen without being judgmental. Just listen without being judgmental. We need to speak where somebody wants to listen, and listen talk where somebody wants to hear. Not always about, because what people don't understand about leaders, people look to people for leadership, but the pressure that it puts on a leader. But the thing about having a leader is the leader had to follow somebody. I looked to somebody years ago for all my Bible needs and wants. And finally, the Lord spoke to me and he said, where do you think they get the answers? From me. It's always a resolve. And the answer usually lies within yourself, because you have the answer to your destiny. No two people are alike. I wrote a poem that I want to use a clipping of. It's called I Have a Dream, and it's about people in recovery. It says, I have a dream that people in recovery can be seen, not as a homeless man under a bridge, Afro-American, or a poor kid. For addiction has no street address or pay scale. It looks for anyone coming through or headed for hell. It's not gracious, nor starts out fun. It will strip you till you won't even know your daughter or son. But see, broken crayons still color the same. So stop the stigma and call them by their name, for peace is a great game. Pray for those who come through recovery's doors, because it could be you we see no more. I have a dream. And that's my dream for recovery.
Wow, that is so powerful. I hope you have that published somewhere. Do you have that published somewhere?
No.
You need to copyright that, and you need to publish it, because that's very powerful and it's very true. It's very, very true. I think now more than ever, I see people having a greater understanding that, okay, so there's so much controversy on whether or not, people choose to be addicts or they're born addicts and they're all that. Here's the way I see it is that, okay, maybe the first time I used, it was my choice. But after that, once the reward system in your brain gets taken over, it is a battle. And we need to stand one another, regardless of whether your philosophy on how it happened. We need to focus on the solution. And I believe the solution is getting rid of the stigma, creating an open atmosphere where people know that they're valued. And so that's why that poem is so powerful, because it's just not, I hate it when people are like, oh, well, they're just a junkie. I'm like, no. They are a broken person, and you have brokenness in your life. And just because your brokenness is not showing and bleeding everywhere doesn't mean you're not broken. And, I use the analogy of a mosaic lamp or a mosaic art that is all these broken pieces that have been put together to make something beautiful. And that's why what you said about doing it together. And that's what's so powerful about, and why I jumped on the bandwagon to promote the faith-based initiative, is because I am like, come on, church, we are the body. We got to stand up. We've got to stand up and quit relying on, and I'm grateful, don't get me wrong, I'm grateful for governmental programs and all of our brothers and sisters out there working, in, the different fields of recovery, but we, the church, need to do better about saying, okay, it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay there. So what can we do to help you along to get to that next breakthrough, so you start to understand who you are and you start to want to be free?
You know, freedom is a choice, Maggie, and
yes,
God wills everybody would be free. But if you can't go to a church and get help, I did that myself. I went to several churches and I felt like I was secluded because I was the only one that had open addiction. You know, of course, some people want to hide it, you know, but even if they did or didn't, I went for about what was wrong with me. And I found out, you know, churches are the largest denomination in the world. But yet we are the most separated. We must come together to help others. You know, it bothers me that we have 5 churches on one street and nobody can tell you what the person's name is in there. We were put here to work together, working together. You know, I'm looking towards leaning this little thing called the Be Better Me movement. And it's where you be the best person you could be every day. You know, smile. You know, if you got $1, buy a cold drink and hand it to somebody outside the window. Be better than me. We got to learn to be better daily, because if we don't, we're just resolving ourselves and our need to be here on this earth too. But again, as you say about the churches, I love the Lifeliners. I love, you know, Tatters. All of those are my go-tos. And what happens with all of us is we stay together. You can pick up the phone and call. When you can call a number any time of day or night, it's an amazing thing. But I won't take the credit from Nashville. They're willing to listen. We just got work to do as a whole, not your center, my center, your space, my space, but ours together to help others come in.
Oh, so true. So true. I absolutely love the people in the recovery movement, and they've been a great support to me dealing with own issues within my family. And I know it's camaraderie. And I know that the reason that recovery groups like NAAA, Al-Anon, Celebrate Recovery, Freedom in Christ, all the different ones, you know, Reformers Anonymous, and the list goes on and on. There's so many out there. Double Trouble. Yeah. The reason that these have worked over the years is because of community, and we heal in community. God did not create us to be separate. You know, he even had his 12, you know, so we have got to know that regardless of the circumstances, just because someone else is struggling in a different area, pain is the same, and they need to get help, and they won't do it unless we say, it's, you know, you're welcome, you know, come, you know, go, you know, how can we help you? What is next? What's your next step? Okay. You got this, and this, let's make a plan. And because I have found people, especially like right now, I'm dealing with someone in very progressed long-term, and their perception is so like this, you know, it's like, it seems like they can never be reached. Now I know, if not for the grace of God, there go I know that this person can, but it's in that meantime. So if someone is watching this, Tawanda, and they love someone who is hurting and they don't know what to do, what would you say to that person?
My go-to is going to be first pray for understanding, pray for them, but most preach it. There are too many numbers now. We got the red line. We have your neighbor down the street. Just ask. You cannot sit without the question. That's what kept me in recovery so long. In addiction so long, was the fact of not wanting to ask for help, trying to do it on my own. You can't do it on your own. We're not in this world by ourselves, and we have to reach out. And if you get a no from somebody, keep going. You know, if you go to the grocery store, they don't have what you want, you're going to drive to the next one. Keep going until you get it. Keep driving until you get it.
That is great. I love that. And if I was to ask you to leave the audience with a key, what would that key be?
Oh, I got a good key for y'all. Y'all might have to get a key ring for this one.
Oh, come on, girl. I'm all about key rings.
Every day, be who you are. Do not be a copy of an original.
Oh, come on. That's so good. Say it again.
Do not be a copy of an original. Everybody has value. Be your own self. Do not copy yourself from anybody else. Paste your own value on your own day. Do not be a copy of an original. That's
really good. Now, Tawanda, you're on social media. How can people follow you?
Tawanda Murray is my name. You can go to that page, or I got a new writer's blog where I'm writing my poetry called Chatties. You can go to there, or my I Am Recovery is also on there. So I have 3. It takes 3 for me. It takes 3. Yeah.
I love that.
Be found. If not, ask somebody, where's Tawanda? Because she's somewhere striving for recovery.
I love that. And you are on the go. I see you all over the place, and I'm so grateful for the work that you do. And most of all, for your approach of letting people know, hey, I am here. You know, and if I can do this, you can too, and you're going to get through this. So I absolutely love. Now, is the I Am Recovery curriculum, is that something that other people can duplicate? Can they train under you?
You can purchase it. It's going to be in Tatus next week. I'm running some copies off. I'm going to when I leave here, put some in Tatus, or you can reach out to me per email and get the curriculum. Okay.
Excellent. Because to me, it sounds like a wonderful curriculum to use, because it's taking the whole person, and it's not going to keep you stuck with just dealing with your alcohol or your drug or your porn or your shopping or your food or any of the other things. It's getting to the root. And when we get to the root, we're going to see a difference in the fruit that we bear. That's all there is to it. And doing the inner work, and inner work is not easy, but it's worth it. So if you're watching this broadcast and you do need help, please reach out, because help is available. But you've got to want to do it, and no one else can do it for you. And I was thinking the other day, I was watching The Chosen a couple weeks ago. I love this show. And the guy at the pool of Bethesda was laying there, and his whole thing was, I don't have anybody to do this for me. I don't have anybody to help me. And faith is action. You've got to take that. You got to make that call. You got to step into that meeting. You got to look in that mirror and say, okay, I am worth it. God doesn't create junk. My life has value. It may be jacked up right now, but by golly, I'm going to get out of this mess. So I encourage you guys, reach out to Tawanda. Follow her, follow the curriculum that she's using, and be aware that you are not alone. Tawanda, thank you so much. We could talk for hours about this topic. I know we could. So thank you so much for being on here today.
Thank you for having me, Megan. Well, I want to say God bless you for all you do for us as well.
Oh, thank you so much. I have a mouth. I just want to be a vessel. So I'm just out here running it for Jesus. And
what we can't do apart, we can do together. And that's where we stand today. We're going to do this. We got this.
Amen. Yes, I am so grateful. And listen, y'all can catch her at your email. Give them your email address too, honey, if they want to send a private message to you.
Okay. It's Tawanda, TAWANDA.IamRecovery@gmail.com. That's Tawanda.IamRecovery@gmail.com.
And if you are watching this on social media, make sure that you like it, share it, get into the hands of someone that needs to hear it. It is put it all over the place, because people need to know we do recover. Okay. Yes. And her I Am Recovery program works. And there is people that care and understand. So God bless you, sister. Thank you so much. Stay on the line. I want to talk to you afterwards. Everybody else, we'll see you here next time on Keys to Your Best Life.
Bye.